Today, we are going to do some myth busting around acquisitions. We are going to determine whether your firm's vision should change between when you first started and where you are now. We're going to share some of our hardest lesson learned, and then let all of y'all know why the ATL, Atlanta, is the best place to have a firm. All this here on Drink While You Think, the weekly happy hour conversation between a couple of guys, one who's not here today, who are building their accounting firm in really weird ways. And continuing our sponsorship. Today's show is being sponsored by Butler-Davis Tax and Accounting, who are full service accounting, bookkeeping, consulting, outsourcing, payroll, and business services firm located right here in the A.
Yes.
And why is another accounting firm sponsoring our firm's happy hour conversation? Well, I think it's pretty simple. The firm owners, Nicole and J.W. Davis, are two of the very best people in our accounting profession. They are not just competent accounting professionals, which they are. They're amazing people, and I count myself very, very lucky to call them friends. Yay. JW and Nicole, we are super excited to have you all here.
Excited to be on.
Yeah. So, all right, give us the intro. Who are y'all? And then most importantly, what are y'all drinking today?
Okay. So I'm Nicole Davis. I am a CPA here at Butler-Davis Tax and Accounting. We are a full service accounting firm. And like Kenji said, we pretty much do everything except assurance services. So our motto is it doesn't cost to have a good accountant, it pays. And it's always good to be in the A.
Oh, yes. I love it.
So I'm drinking, look, we're not beer drinkers, but we made an exception just for today. So I got this tropical beer hug from, it's an Imperial. Is it IPA or IPA?
Oh, IPA. Okay, yeah. You're bringing it. Ooh, that's good.
Right, it's strong.
That's gonna be strong. Okay. I like that. You are bringing it. So, all right, JW, you're up next.
Right. So I am obviously with Butler-Davis Tax and Accounting. We do a little bit of everything. We have other things working with payroll. So I handle like the payroll part of it. And we are working on a RIA also. So we got quite a lot, going. So so we're excited to be here. We love you guys. And yes, we do listen. And I have an IPA also.
Okay.
It's a Voodoo Ranger is what I'm drinking.
I've had that too. But the tall boys too. Like, woo.
Yes, the tall boys, right.
Listen, it is in tax season right now, so I know we're having to bring it. I'm also drinking the tall boy. This is one that y'all sent me. Look at this thing. It's called the Cannibal. The Cannibal Belgian style ale. Nicole, you brought this to me when we had lunch from Iron Hill Brewery. It is a Belgian style ale, like 7.4%. We're not messing around today.
No,
right?
Not today.
It's tax season.
Ooh, that's right. Cheers, y'all. Happy to have y'all here. Happy to see y'all's faces. So we are not messing around today. All right. Oh, all right. We'll see what kind of work gets done after this today. I'm not sure. All right. Let's talk some acquisitions, because you've kind of done some, we've done some.
We done one.
We done one. Okay. Yeah.
Exactly. We done one.
So give us a quick rundown on that one. And then I want us both to get into like, all right, what are some of these weird myths that people, surrounding acquisitions, that now that we've all been through at least one, like what do we think are myths we need to bust? So tell us about this one y'all did.
So this one sort of fell in our laps from a current client that we have. His mother-in-law actually owned a payroll company here in our small little town of Conyers. And she's been doing it the last like 20 years. So she was at a point where she was like, you know what, I'm ready to sell. I want to retire. She wants to move to the mountains. And so we revisited it with our clients, like, hey, we're looking at acquisitions because, we have been looking for a while and we've had a bunch of duds. And then I went back to him and said, hey, ask your mother-in-law if she's ready now. And she was ready because she was like, I'm done. And then everything just sort of fell in place. It was just like it was just perfectly planned. It was like the perfect timing, the perfect price, the perfect terms. And then we recently found out there were some health issues that she had that she didn't know about before we actually like started talking about the acquisition. So even now it's like it was the perfect time for her to exit and take care of her health. And so that someone else can come in and kind of fill that role. So
that's amazing.
It's been it's almost been too easy. We're like, when's the other shoe gonna drop, right?
And so again, when did this happen? When did y'all close it?
So we started talking to her up in December, and then we closed on it in February, right in the middle of tax season. So
y'all, I tell you,
we're doing a lot.
That's a lot. That is a lot.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So we talked about on the show before too. I won't get to it. We did 2 of them. Mm-hmm. And we've talked about them before. We did one of ours in the middle of tax season too.
Yeah.
So I've got some feelings about that.
Yeah.
But all right. So what now on the other side of it? Y'all are on the other side by a few months. I'm by, year, but also some months. What are some things that like folks, it could have been us before we did this, or other folks we know out there in the accounting profession that we think are things we think differently now about doing it? What are y'all feeling there?
Well, for me, I guess for us, because we knew them, so it makes it a lot easier with the relationship, because now going into it a few months, if you didn't have someone that you had a good relationship with, and that someone that, you guys kind of meshed together and were working together to get the acquisition closed and the process through, it would be tough. I'm telling you, it would be tough.
Yes. I will also say too, to add to that point, is that because we had that relationship with the owner and the owner's son-in-law, it's like they're treating this still like their business. Like they are taking care of things. Like they know we're in tax season, so we're like bogged down. But for the most part, like they have been just running with it. It's like we haven't had to really worry about anything at all. Right. Because the employees are like, yes, we got you guys, we understand. And then the owners, even though the principal owner, has some health issues, her husband worked in the business the last 3 years, so he was kind of managing it all, and he's still now managing it all until we're able to like fully transition. So it's I think from that standpoint, it's been great. I think what we should have done is during tax season, right? That was a heavy lift for us. We didn't realize how much of a lift it was going to be. We're like, it shouldn't be that bad because everything else fell in place so well. But then we're like, we probably shouldn't have done this during this busiest time of the year, right?
Yeah. I love that. I think y'all nailed that. A couple of those things y'all said really resonate with me. And so first I'll say the tax season thing.
Bad idea.
That was a bad idea. That was not I don't know that would be a myth that people would, I would bet other accountants we know they're like crazy. But we just wanted to check that myth just to be sure. And we're like, all right, we'll confirm that. That's not a good idea. But JW, you were saying too about doing it with somebody, and I will completely agree with you there. Like when we did our deal with Patty and Scott Scharf, we've been friends for a long time. We had a relationship. We knew each other. It made a big difference. Big difference. When you said that, I was like, that really resonated with me for sure. I talked about too, and I know Nicole, you were there in the room when I talked about that, I think just getting through one was helpful to us, even though y'all's sounds like it's going great. Ours, was not exactly as we expected, our first one we did, but it did to me, like it kind of demystified the whole thing. Like it was like, it just feels like this is going to be super hard and weird. And it has been, but like, it's like anything else. You just got to try it sometime and like, all right, we've done one. Cool. We know kind of what we're doing now. Like it used to have this, like an acquisition used to have all this mystique to me. And now I'm like, okay, cool. We went and did it. Did y'all feel that same way?
We did, because we were going into, so I would have to say that you and Matt and Liz, like you guys really put a lot of things in my head to think about when we were going through this acquisition process, because a lot of the acquisitions we were looking at, like there were things we wanted and there are some things we didn't want. So I think that's a myth. Like you have to acquire the whole practice. When you don't, you can actually say, hey, I don't want this part of your business. I want this part of your business. And so for us, being able to like suss that out with the ones we were looking at really helped us determine, okay, what do we really want? And what do we want to offer for what we really want? Like, don't just take on a company and all their tax returns if you don't want to do taxes, right?
Right.
So for us, that was something that helped us in this process and kind of like demystified it, because that's not something we thought about before.
Yeah. I think that I would say anyway, listening, that follow what Nicole and JW did here on this one, less than what me and Matthew did. Because we didn't really ask many people. We kind of went and did it. And I think y'all did it right by asking, like, hey, what should I look out for? What should I avoid? I mean, the community that we all work in, these accountants are they become good friends just like y'all are with us. And are super willing to share what's worked and what hasn't. I wish I would have worked, done a little bit more and asking some more folks about things, because I think we would have made some different decisions. Yeah, it's a different choice. One of the choices I think that the myth that got busted for us was, I think, and again, this may just be Acuity, but we thought the acquisition would be a great way to grow. And we did grow, but like, it probably wasn't the best way for us to grow. Like when we did this, that was our first one. Our second one, we grew more, but like, it was much more about like, we got some really critical team members in the Catching Cloud folks who came over, who brought some new ways of thinking. We learned some things from it. So for me, I'd go back and like, man, I missed that. I was like, this is a great way for us to grow. Right. And I think there were better ways for us to grow, really, than just lumping in an acquisition. Now that's just us. That's just us. Yeah. But
I've actually heard that a lot from people. Like, I think people do acquisitions because they think that's the only way, or that's the fastest way to grow. But that's an expensive way to grow.
It is expensive.
If you really think about it, because like you said, and Matt gave me this great metric. He said, do an acquisition if you're okay losing 33% of the business. So like you're paying 100%, but in return, you're only getting about 70% of the overall sales at the end of the day. So
that's right.
Like, it's a very expensive endeavor to do
if
you think that's the only way you can grow. But like, there are so many other ways you can grow, especially if you're not on a hyper growth trajectory, right?
Well, I'll put this out there to folks. Reach out to us here, all three of us here. If y'all want to talk about it, I mean, we'd love to, and maybe drop some comments in with some questions about it. And we're happy to help folks do it the right way, which I think y'all did. Yeah.
And I think too, and added to that too, we were looking at doing an acquisition out of state. And I think, and Matt kind of talked to us, if we could do it in state, to do it in state. And that kind of helped in our decision also.
Yeah.
You're right. That's something that when we were talking to folks, we're like, we don't care where they are. And there's some truth to that, but we didn't think through how important it is early on, especially to be together, together. And if Patty and Scott were here with us right now, they would say that's one of the areas that's been a little bit tough, is like, we can't be together as much as we want to. And when you're close by, you really can't, especially during this crazy COVID time, and you can't do it. Yeah, that's a great point, JW. So
that is, speaking of that, because the company we bought is like literally like 8 minutes away from us. Like, we were able to have lunch, bring our teams together, have lunch. Right. Yesterday, we actually celebrated one of the new employees' 50th birthday. So we all got together to do that. So like,
that's awesome.
Proximity to each other, I think it has helped our culture too, because they know they're coming to our office. We want to make sure that everyone fits culturally and get along. And that has been a great thing for us. So
I remember, I'm thinking of so many things now around this. I remember the first time that myself and Lisa, our COO, who really runs things for us, we got a chance to go up to visit the folks at our first acquisition up in New Hampshire. And again, this was in 2020, 2021. And so we closed that deal like in October, November of 2020. I think it was October. And the first time we got up there to visit them was in May. And so it was 6 months. And
Oh, wow.
we just spending a couple days in their office with them. I sat there and I looked at her going, what were we doing? Right? What are we doing? And so I think that's another great myth. It's like, oh, they can be anywhere. Well, they may be, but you better find a way to get together a lot and spend that time. So that's a great one. That's a great one.
Yep.
Well, let's switch gears here because you've gave some great topics and things, and this one's been on my mind. Vision. Yes. And so I've been obsessed with like our company vision lately. And the question that y'all put out there was, is your vision, is it something that's supposed to be like enduring, that lasts forever, it should never change? Or actually, should it change? Like when we first started, I mean, for me, it's been a long time since I started Acuity. Y'all not quite as long, but like, I don't know, I'm super curious about your experience. Has that vision, your kind of purpose, has it changed since you started as you look back now?
I think so. Would you agree, JW?
Yeah, I know you started it, so I'm pretty sure the vision, you can go into more detail, but that is a big part of the culture, the vision, to know where we're going.
So I think when I first started, I just wanted, I would say I've always been ambitious, right? I'm like, go big or go home. So my goal was always to grow a pretty large firm, and to create the lifestyle that I want for my family, for my team members. Like I want us to all to live the good life. But it's kind of like a relationship, right? In that the person you're in a relationship with doesn't stay the same. Like we were going to a relationship therapist, and he was like, the person you're married to changes every 5 years. So you need to, you got to relearn this person, relearn what they like, what they want to do, their dislike. And it's the same thing with your firm. Like your firm is changing, even though you may not think it is. If it's not changing, the world around you is changing, and you need to be able to adapt to that change. So you got to be constantly reimagining that vision. Like, what does my firm look like today that it didn't look like 5 years ago? Or what should it look like? Or what do I want it to look like? And I think like you got to have that constant conversation with yourself, with your team members, with your partners. So.
Oh yeah. I think that's a great way to think of it, because if we're not changing and adapting, I guess is the word, that's even a better word, the one that you used, then we're going to end up kind of, we a little bit, I'll say I do make fun of, pick on some of these older firms that don't ever change.
Right.
And it's probably not fair, not that nice to do, but I use it for me to get me a little fired up. Like, hey, we got to be adapting. Things are changing. And I think, hearing like even JW talk at the top of this, like, you guys are putting RIA in place and putting, investment, you're doing all kinds of interesting things where you're changing it up. I mean, changing it up, which I think, I don't know about y'all, not everything we've tried has worked, but like, we're trying to get ourselves and the people around us comfortable with adapting to change, because if you don't, man, the world just passes you by.
Right.
Exactly. So I think that's a great reason to do that. I've as we got bigger, for us on vision, like I thought this whole vision stuff was a bunch of nonsense. I'm like, man, this is a bunch of like, you put a little sign up and you stick it up, whatever. And I got challenged by our leadership team a number of years ago. They're like, you got to do this and develop core values and all these things. And I was like, oh, man, I think that stuff's cheesy, whatever. But when I did it, and it became really important. And then all of a sudden, as I started kind of thinking through it, and I was like, I didn't really know what to do. And I talked about in our last episode, I started looking for inspiration because I'm like, I don't really know how to do it. I'm not really down with it that much. So I better figure out somebody who is. And I just happened to find this author I liked a lot named Jim Collins, who wrote a book, Good to Great. And some of his thinking helped me around vision. And so we went back and we just changed our vision, because again, I thought they were supposed to say the same forever. And in fact, but also I'd never written it down anywhere. So I was like, if I had to think back like to when I started, I'm like, I don't really know why I started it. And we had to go back and do it. And it was super helpful. So we sat at it was me, Lisa, Matthew, Patty, and Scott at our executive retreat back in December. And we really got into it on this vision thing. We're like, what is it? What is it? And I was kind of holding it up to what I thought like that I wanted. And they were all up on me about it. I'm like, no, I don't think that's it. I was resistant. I was like, and then as we got more into it, we did realize we're like, wait a minute, there's something here. And what was cool was it actually reminded me of like why I first got into Acuity, of like, I really did want to work with, for us, our purpose is like, we want to go out and serve highly innovative entrepreneurs. I mean, y'all know us, we're working with tech companies and crypto and all these really weird things.
Right.
And when we started talking about that, I was like, that is why I got into this. I really wanted to work with these we're just weird like that. I like the really weird stuff. And so it helped me a ton. Like it really kind of took me back to like, oh, when I'm making a bad decision or I'm getting lost and whatever, like to go back to that vision of like, you know, here's the one. And I do think it changes, but I do think it adapts. I think that the tactics and the approach and the strategy changes.
Yeah.
But for me, because I've been in it, I'm older than y'all and been in it longer than y'all, it was really helpful to go back to it because there have been times I felt like I've kind of lost my way a bit. I'm like, I'm just not down with this anymore. I'm not really feeling it. And when I tap back into like, oh, that vision, I was like, oh, I kind of got a little rejuvenated. So I think there's something to going back and looking at putting a hard look at it, right? Like asking ourselves, are we still relevant? What are we doing? Is this, you know, and I think that's very good for folks to do that. Again, I was the naysayer. People can like, I was like, and it's funny all the time.
It's funny that you mentioned that, like the vision, it adapts, the tactics, the strategies change. But like for us, like our vision, like the words in our vision don't change, but how we approach that changes. Like, okay, what does it mean to help a business owner engineer their best life? Like it may have meant one thing back then, but what does that mean now? And how do we get them there using today's tools and applications and resources? So yeah, I definitely think that the vision changes, but the end goal is still the same.
Yeah, that purpose, right? Why we got into it? Why we got into that is it should be the same. I agree with you. I totally agree with you. How we get there,
right?
We have to adapt that. We got to adapt that. Yeah.
Right. And I think for me on that, the team, I think they're always looking on where we're headed. So with the vision, you kind of have an idea, okay, this is, you know, where we're headed with the vision. It keeps that focus. So when you do want to implement new things and everything, you just tie that into the vision. So they understand why you're doing it. Cause that's a lot of, a lot that comes up because they don't understand sometimes why you're doing it, why you're adding, but with a vision, you know, you bring that in and tie that into what you're doing and why you're bringing in, you know, like adding a payroll company.
Because you're right. People probably look at that and go, what are y'all doing? Like, why is that, you know, right? Because I've had the same thing with our team members today. You nailed that, JW. You said that better than I could have ever thought to say that of like that is when you point back that vision, it helps give you the why. And I found that even when maybe something that I'm doing or trying doesn't end up working, or people are kind of like, I don't know about this. If they understand the why, they're like, oh, I see, that makes sense. And I think that's all people, I mean, people want things to work, of course, but like, otherwise they just don't want to be stuck in like, I don't understand what these people are doing.
Exactly.
That's when people get, and rightly so, people get frustrated because like, I don't understand. They feel like they're just messing around. And there were some years on our side, I'm like, sure people were like, man, Kenji's just messing around, coming with all these weird ideas. I don't get it. When you can tie it back to, like you said, JW, to a vision, people are like, oh, okay, wait a minute, I get that. I see what they're doing. So that's good. All right. Y'all put this out there, but I'm going to go with this next one. The hardest lesson you've learned as a firm owner. Oh, yeah. Come on, y'all are bringing it.
So many lessons. Oh my
goodness. There's so many. Yeah, you gotta. For me, there's a whole list. I gotta pull out a whole notebook full of them.
Right.
You know, y'all asked the question. I just posted here, so I'm gonna put it on you to go first. But all right, what's the hard lesson?
I'm gonna let David go first.
Oh, oh, wow. Okay, so I guess in my case, since me and Nicole, we get asked a lot because we're married, so we work together. So they ask us, how is it working with your spouse? And so
all the time.
So we get it so much all the time. So and for me, I guess it was a transition, but I think what helped and made it so not, one of the hardest things to do is just to define roles. And after that, it wasn't as hard and is not as hard as everyone thinks it is. So for us, being firm owners and working together, we actually, we don't see any other way now. So, I mean, we love it. So
that's awesome.
We just tell everybody
that's awesome.
All day together, all night together. So we're together all the time.
Yeah.
So
that it is something I'll say that folks, I was very intentional when we put this together. I did not want to go back and repeat things because I listened to y'all over on Sons of CPAs with Scott Scarano, and I listened the whole way through. I love listening to it's an awesome story about y'all. But because I'm like, I don't ever want to repeat content, I'm telling folks, sometimes Scott acts crazy. Well, he always acts crazy. But go listen to that one too, because there's some really good origin stories of how y'all kind of got together. And I think that approach of how you work together, because you answered that a million times.
Yeah.
I thought about at one point pulling Scott and Patty on here too. And we're going to talk about couples things, but I'm like, man, they answer that all the time. They're firm owners too. They're doing interesting things. So I'm like, I want to focus on that, but I will point folks over, check that one out. It only dropped a couple weeks ago, but that's a great episode. I love that. It was New Year's Eve and y'all were on there hanging with Scott Scarano, which is crazy. Anyway, all right, Nicole, what do you got for us?
All right, so oh my God, I've had so many hard lessons. Like I had a lesson this week, it's still kind of sensitive, so I don't even want to talk about it, right?
Yeah.
But let's see. So probably a hard lesson for me that I had to, and it took a while for me to learn this lesson, was not trusting the people that I put in place to do what they were tasked to do. And for me, I struggled a long time thinking that if I didn't do it, it wasn't going to get done right. And so I would never let go of certain things. I kept holding on to things, not realizing that it was taking me away from so many other things I could be doing to further the firm along. So that was a hard lesson. It took me many years to finally be like, you know what? Let these folks do their job.
Yeah.
So I can do mine. So yeah.
How long did it take? I mean, do you feel like you're there now? Like you're much better at it now, or do you still?
I'm much better at it now. I would say I'm probably at 90%. Because there's something like, you know what? I'm just going to take it over and do it. I had to stop myself. Like, no, you need to no upward delegation.
Yeah.
So there are certain things that I'll assign or that someone will be responsible for doing. And then I wouldn't like the way they did it. I'd be upset about how they handled it, but it was done. You can't get upset at how they did it, how they interpreted how you wanted it done, and it got done. That's the important part. So yeah.
No, that's helpful. I asked that because I had initially, again, I'm like, y'all, I have so many of these I could pick from. And there's a usual one I've used a lot, but I'm going to change it up to one that's been more recent. And I asked you that question because I'm like, because I'm trying to get better, but I'm worried. I'm like, I got to get better at this. And so we just had our leadership retreat recently back in March. And I mean, y'all, it was awesome vision, strategy, tactics. The 11 of our leaders there, we were just in it for a couple of days. I mean, we were just it was awesome. At the end of it, we're all like, all right, everyone just gets one kind of takeaway, how are your thoughts about the thing? And folks were bringing it. I actually, at the end of it, a few of us got a little emotional. We're like, well, I'm like, I was like, what am I doing? I'm getting it was a really nice time. We felt like we were bonding up until at the very end of it, I ended up dropping a bomb on somebody. And what I mean by that is I had been not in front of everybody, in front of a small group. I'd been mean, like there was somebody who needed to be talked to, like in a little bit of a tough way of like, hey, we got some stuff that we're messing up on.
Right.
And I am really bad about that. I don't like conflict. Y'all know me. I'm a cheerleader. I'm go. Everybody loves hanging out with Kenji because I make you feel good, which also means I'm really bad at giving the tough news.
Okay.
And I let something go for a long time and just let it go. And it got worse and it built up. And then I didn't know how to handle it. And I just dropped it at the totally wrong time. It was terrible, y'all. It was so bad. It was
Bad timing.
It was bad timing, but I used the word when someone asked me that later. I was really ashamed of myself. I was really ashamed of myself because I felt like a really weak leader. Like, I'm like, why was I ducking this conversation? Come on, you got to step up and do it. And so, the good news is I got through. It's almost like that, the 5 stages of grief or whatever they call it. I don't know.
Yeah.
I had to get through that first stage of like feeling like just terrible. I was so, my wife, everybody else was like, I was so in the dumps. I'm like, I'm an idiot. What is wrong with me? How did I do this? And now I'm at this point where I'm like, all right, I'm going to get better. I'm working on something. I'm reading a bunch of books. I've got my counselor working with me on it, on some things. I'm doing all my leadership teams all trying to help me with this. But like, I was like, you stop avoiding conflict. You got to get in there and make the tough call. And so that's a lesson. I've got many, but that was a real recent one. And I'm like, my prayer is like, all right, this has been when I really look at it, this is a long time pattern. This is a Kenji's been this way for a long time. So I feel confident, but I'm like, a little nervous. I'm like, I hope I can break this thing because I do see it. And here's the really hard part for me on this. I see culturally as a business, as an overall business, a bunch of people, we're not very good at that. We're not good at giving tough feedback. We're not good at and when I look at that, I'm like, I know where that comes from. This guy.
Right.
So, yikes.
Anyway. I feel you in that, Kenji. I think I'm the total opposite though. So that's why we had JW as the buffer, because I don't like conflict, but I also say you force me to be confrontational when you don't do what you're supposed to do. Yeah. And with that forcing, my words are very professional, but they're very like pointed, like, and that's what JW comes in. He's like the people person, right? He's the team builder. He's able to express how I'm feeling in a way that doesn't like hurt people's feelings. So I think that's where
he does the fine line. He can still give the tough news, but in a good professional way.
Yes,
right?
Versus where I'm like, I'm very blunt, I'm very to the point. And then most people can't handle bluntness, right?
They can't. And what I end up doing, Nicole, I'm a bit the same way. Like I don't like the confrontation and the conflict, but what I feel like people should know what they're supposed to do. I'll tell them and then go do it do it. Like I'm gonna let you do your thing.
Right.
And then when they don't, I sit there and go, why aren't they doing it? Why aren't they doing it? And then I just keep wishing and hoping that they're going to fix things. You at least step in and say something. We all need a JW to come in and like, all right, what Kenji's really trying to say, or what Nicole's trying to say is, in a very nice way.
Right, exactly.
Get it together. Let's go.
Yeah.
So anyway, there's always lessons to be learned. All right, let's go with our final one. I have war for y'all. My Atlanta influences everything. Sherry, I should have put my Hawks hat on tonight because we gotta win this game against Charlotte and get in the playoffs. We had an instant bond when we all met. We're like, wait a minute, more firm owners from Atlanta. I mean, I guess we'll throw it out there. Why are we living in Atlanta? Why do we love Atlanta? What's great about the A? What else do you need to say? What else do you need to say?
Atlanta's just a very diverse city, right? There's so many different ideas and ideologies and perspectives. And like, I don't know, it's just something magical about Atlanta.
There really is.
Let me ask JW because he's from Louisiana, right?
That's true. He's a transplant.
So, why do you
Like me.
Atlanta?
So I guess for me, Atlanta, you still kind of get the the big city feel when you're in the metro, but outside of like the other cities, Atlanta still has the Southern hospitality though.
Mhm.
So you still have that where people speak to you, as opposed if you go to New York or something, that it's totally different, man. The big cities, yeah, man. So Atlanta still has that cultural vibe to it. So
It does.
yeah, you're still big and you still got a lot that's happening in Atlanta, but you still have that Southern hospitality,
I remember because I grew up in the Midwest as a kid before college until I came to the South. And that's something I really liked about that. I felt actually the weather here is a million times better than what I grew up in as a Midwestern kid, but the people were kind and they were talkative. They were, and I know people will say like, oh, well, people are just as rude in Atlanta. They just won't tell you. But I'm like, well, maybe, but also like, I like having nice conversations with people. I don't need to be cursed out just because,
Exactly.
like on the streets of New York or somewhere,
Right.
and it is something about it. I'm really, we've talked, my wife and I've talked at times about like, we don't have any family in Atlanta, but she and I have been down here we've lived most of our life down here now. And we thought it was going to be a stopping point. Like, we're just going to like stop off here and go somewhere else. And we're still here. And they were like, okay, when these kids are out of the house and they're almost out, like, we're going to get out of here. And we've been traveling more, but every time we come back, I'm always like,
this is home.
It's home.
I'm happy to be back. Just like you mentioned, JW, when we fly back in, I look, I'm like, this city's so green. It's just like there's trees everywhere. Like I fly into other places and it's like just concrete and
concrete. Yeah.
And I'm like, it's not pretty. And I think it is a nice blend of like, we got a downtown that's kind of growing.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's something about it where I'm just really proud of being from Atlanta. We have our challenges, no doubt about it. But like,
Correct,
I feel like we're on the up right now. Like we are
we are.
When you look at, where so much of culture is coming from these days, where change is happening in our country. I'm like, you can look to Atlanta as a place.
Right? It's
Let's go.
Yes.
So I don't know. It's something. It is and beyond that too. I think we're all business owners. We're all parents. Things like that. To where it's been a really good place as I reflect back, like to start a business and to raise a family. It's been good. It's been good. I mean, we get access to. All of us have gone to Falcons games together. We get big city things like that. NFL, but also like the cost of living's good. It's it is good.
Another
That
point.
part.
Yes. That's another point. That's another good point.
Yeah. So I don't know. You're not going to hear. I mean, we're going to be very biased here on this podcast.
Yes, we are.
Exactly.
We are going to be like,
if you're not in Atlanta, you're losing.
You're losing. Come on down. Maybe we'll have we've talked about this, a little open house, bring some other firm owners down. You'll come on down and hang in Atlanta with us for a little bit. And we'll get more folks down here, but I think it's been a great place to start a firm for sure. So,
it is.
All right, well, let's land this thing and I'll show you how we kind of do it here. We rate these beers and just be honest with it. Let me pull up. I've already got my beer pulled up. The one y'all gave to me. Oh, I can't, hold on. I gotta expand it a bit. The Cannibal is what I just had, the drink. You rate these things on a scale of 1 to 5 in quarter-point increments. I'm almost done with it. This was tasty. This was very nice of you to bring this to me. I'm gonna give it a good strong 4 out of 5. Let's see. Well, I'm not gonna go 4.25. I'm gonna go 4 out of 5. That's a pretty good strong rating. Now, I'm curious. You'll all need to give me the names again of your beers, and I'll find them. We're gonna put them in here. So Nicole, how about you go first? What was yours again?
Mine is the Tropical Beer Hug. Tropical Beer Hug.
This is always the part that Matthew makes fun of me because I'm like typing things in and he's like, "You're taking so long, people are gonna fall." Oh, there it is.
Yeah, that's it.
There it is. All right, what are you feeling on this thing? Out of 1 to 5.
So I think it's actually once you get over the initial like tartness of it,
It's
not that bad. I say it's a 3.25.
okay. Oh, that's that. There you go. There you go. IPA is not messing around. You went. Matthew would have rated that, I promise, like in the twos, because he doesn't like IPAs. He doesn't like them. He doesn't like them.
Wow.
That's okay though. JW, what did you have again? You had the.
So I had the Voodoo Ranger.
Okay. Which one? There's a bunch of those. Is there anything else on those? I've had a few of
The
those.
juice one, right, Jane? What is it?
Yeah, it was the Juice Force.
Juice Force. Okay.
The hazy Imperial IPA.
Man, you guys both went Imperial IPAs.
Yeah, we
these
did.
these are not for the faint of heart. This is not
No.
like for folks who don't drink beer very often, jumping into an Imperial IPA. This is whoa.
And that's maybe why I'm going to rate mine at 2.5.
Yeah. That's gonna be hard to like. You got to be a diehard, really into it. Okay, 2.5 on the Juice Ranger. Y'all were very, very kind to bring beers to come on, but mostly kind that again that y'all are. I'm just really, really happy that y'all are here in Atlanta. That we're good friends. I get to see y'all more on a more regular basis. But I do appreciate y'all coming on so much.
Well, thank you for having us.
Yeah.
Thank
Now,
you.
where can everybody find you? I feel like I know where people can find you, Nicole.
Yeah, on Twitter.
Yeah.
Now, JW, where can people find you, or do you even want to be found? Because she's out there.
Nicole doesn't want to be found.
Right. I let Nicole do the Twitter.
There
So
you
if
go.
You find Nicole, you find me.
That's a good point. You just heard they're together all the time.
Exactly. So I'm probably right next to her while she's tweeting.
That's right. That's right. Let her tweet. Find Nicole on
You're
Twitter.
right.
What's your handle on that one, Nicole?
It's at Wife Mom CPA 100.
Mom CPA 100. Check her out. She's got interesting things to say all the time. It always makes me laugh. And she's always calling things out that need to be fixed. This week's been certainly one of them that's been interesting. Y'all are awesome and amazing. Thanks for jumping on. And hey, everybody on here, if you got any comments or questions, post them on YouTube, post them on the socials, wherever you want to. And you want to come on here, just send us some beer, just like, JW and Nicole did. Come on,
Right.
Come on, have it. Or just hit the subscribe button. So cheers, everybody. Thanks for jumping on.
Cheers.
Cheers.